Hey everybody, this is the June 29th episode of the Dark Illumination Report podcast extra, and today we're going to be talking about whether or not people who have a history of self-mutilation should be doing blood offerings to Satan. This is a question that comes from Hayden, and he asked me to give him my thoughts on this subject, so that's what we're going to do today.
This is a Dark Illumination Report extra with RJ Womack.
Let me be the first one to say that I am not an expert in this subject. I've never had this problem. I know it's a very common issue that a lot of Satanists deal with. My first thing I would say is if you would do bloodletting anyway, and it's more of a way of coping with the urge or whatever it is, the psychological issue that you're having, then it probably shouldn't be done until you get a more healthy approach to that issue, or you deal with it and deal with the underlying issues that are causing you to do that. Now, I don't know the psychology or the compulsion that drives people to do cutting or self-mutilation, so I can't claim to understand that. I'm just saying that if you're doing self-mutilation or something like that in order to make an offering to Satan, and you're using Satan as the excuse for the behavior, as a way of justifying your behavior, then that's not a good reason to do it. And until you get to the point where it's no longer about whatever your underlying issues are, it's not an appropriate sacrifice. You should never use Satan or demons as a crutch to make excuses for your own behavior. This would also be true for sexual offerings or libation offerings, alcohol offerings. If you are a person who has a balanced sex life and has a satisfying sex life outside of magic, and you decide to do a sexual offering either by yourself or with a partner, that's one thing. But if you're a person who is, let's say your sex life is not the best, or you're not as active as you'd like to be, you should never use sexual offerings as a way to gratify yourself. You should never use Satan as your excuse for your behavior. That's just not the way diabolists should think. A diabolist is all about being in compliance with nature and being true to yourself. A diabolist would never use Satan as an excuse for their own behavior, because Satan teaches us to be natural and to be true to ourselves. And that goes against everything Satan stands for, as far as I'm concerned. So the same thing would be true with alcohol. If you have an alcohol problem and you say, I'm going to drink a toast to the demons every night, then you're using Satan as an excuse to justify your behavior, and therefore it's not a true offering. Now, let's say, like in my situation, I'm not a heavy drinker. I don't drink a lot. I don't have anything against drinking, I just don't drink a lot. So when I do libations or when I do spirits as an offering to the gods, it truly is an offering to the gods, because rarely do I drink outside of ritual. It's not very often. And in fact, most of the time when I do drink, it's usually during holiday celebrations. So it has a specific and a very strong link to religion for me. Same thing would be true, like I said, for sexual offerings as well. If you have a balanced life, then you're okay. But if you're using the religion as an excuse for you to have sex with people and using it to manipulate people, that's not an appropriate offering. So all of these things have to be taken into consideration when you think about offerings. You have to question your own motivations. You have to question, is it coming from a good place? Is it coming from a place of devotion and respect? Or is it coming from a place of selfishness that's all about me? Now, Satan is not the Christian God, so there's nothing wrong with indulging in any of these things. But the difference between the Christian and the Satanist is we're honest about our motivations. We're honest with ourselves about what is motivating us to do the things we do. We don't have to justify ourselves. We don't have to use religion as a crutch or an excuse to do what we want to do. We just go and do what we want to do. If you want to get together and you want to do some kind of BDSM ritual with satanic imagery, you can do that. You don't have to use a ritual to do that. You don't have to use a black mass to justify that. There's nothing wrong with indulging in anything, as far as pleasure goes, or alcohol or anything else. If you're a diabolist, there's nothing wrong with any of that. Just don't use Satanism as the excuse for your behavior. Be real about your shit. Be honest with yourself and others, and be honest with Satan and the demons, most of all. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope it helps. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Dark Illumination Report podcast. For the latest news headlines, show information, and more, go to rjwomack.com. That's rjwomack.com.